Sandwiches and scones are at the table. The one thing that my mother put in her will was that at any memorial that we had for her, which she sort of assumed would be like 10 people at 39 Will Crescent, that there had to be tea sandwiches. So there are the tea sandwiches. Okay, so then we're going, after the lineup of speakers in the formal part of the afternoon is finished, we're going to take a short break. By then there's going to be desserts over there on the dessert table, and so people can get some desserts and then come back, and then we are going to have an open mic where we warmly invite everyone to please come up and share their reminiscences of June. Also, in lieu of flowers or donation, we've asked people to write imploring letters to Premier Danielle Smith and the Minister of Infrastructure, Martin Wong. To make that as easy as we could, we drafted a letter. I messed with an earlier draft, deleting everything that could have possibly be seen as a rebuke to Alberta's sovereignty, because I didn't want to muddy the issues. Anyway, thank you very much to Shauna Vogel, who got us copies of those letters, and we have some addressed envelopes. Some of them are stamped. If you wanted to sign the letter and put it, we're going to run out of stamps quickly, but if you want to just sign the letter, we can put a stamp on it, and we'll run around to different mailboxes. Send them out. Okay, so I would now like to introduce our first speaker. This is my mom's first cousin, David Martin, always known to her as Cousin Day for Happy Day because he was such a happy kid, and also known to me as Uncle Day. My mom adored her cousin Day, and it's my very great pleasure to ask him to come to the podium now.
Very contingent, so we may as well get this out of the way right now. And these words are, I can't believe they're crossing my lips, but it's go Oilers. So, I've known June I've been close to June for a long time. Our families met back in the early and late 40s. We traveling from Calgary, and Imelda and June and her family all coming down from Edmonton, and we'd rent cottages at Gull Lake. Finally, my father bought a cottage, and June lives rented next door, I think, or very nearby. Anyhow, in the late 40s, June would have been about 15, I guess, at the time. I was younger, a lot younger than June. I'm only, I don't know. Anyhow, my sister was also a teenager, and her cousin Lola was a teenager also. So we had this hormone central going on that was with all these three young ladies, and there was a iceman. They sold ice door to door at the time, and they put it in your refrigerator. And the iceman would be coming down the road, and the girls would run and dump the water out of that we had, because our water was at the pump. And they'd run out to the road so they could meet this guy. His name was Ernie Fernie, if you believe it. But this hunk of muscle coming down the road, they had to be at the pump all the time. And we'd had the chance to tease June about that for a long, long time. So my father decided, after we bought a cottage nearby, that these girls had to be put to work. And so he decided to get them to paint the roof. And so they're up there painting the roof, and I think it was a barn red, sort of whatever cheapest paint that we had. And one of them accidentally dolloped the other one, and the fight was on. And by the time it finished, these girls were covered, or not too, splashed a lot with the paint, and paint had been spilled. And I don't know how they got cleaned up, because these oil-based paints either had turpentine or Varsol to clean it up. We had no running water at the cottage. If you wanted a bath, you went to the lake. And I think maybe the adventure of going down to the lake maybe started a trend towards skinny dipping in the late fall. But anyhow, I guess, tradition of getting together continued on with June and I and our families, the Acorns and the Martins. The Acorns finally, they rented for a long time, and then they bought a cottage also. I still go down to our cottage at Gull. Anyhow, they rented there, and we would get together. And June would invite us down, and she would have one of these gourmet meals that we always looked forward to, no matter whether it was in Edmonton or in the more primitive surroundings of Gull Lake. And that was accompanied by an awful lot of wobbly pop, I guess is one way of expressing it, with wine and beer and things like that. And so the evenings would evolve to when we were at the end, towards the end of the evening. Glenn would get out his saxophone, and the boys would have their guitars going, and the rhythm section would be either a gut bucket, like we called it, or whatever utensils, pots, pans, combs, the whole rhythm section. June used to call this walking through the forest. And I never could really figure out why would she call it walking through the forest. And it finally twigged me that the answer would be with the difficulty of finding the outhouse towards the end of the evening. I was going to go on and plan to talk about June's accomplishments. And what I ran into when I was looking for things, my wife used to keep a journal. Not all the time, but occasionally. And so I ran across this in one of her journals, which is what I would like to read this passage, I guess, that she wrote to you. The most important thing that a generation does is to prepare their children for their life in the future, and to prepare the future for their children. June obviously was on that page. She did everything that was proper and correct to get that done. John and Lise, you are the product of great genes, and that would be part of June's selection of things. Great nutrition. I can recall piles of vitamins on the table, and you weren't allowed to go out and do anything before all those vitamins were consumed. And the other third thing that they are the product of is great parenting. So you are, at the end of the day, confident, articulate, bright, well-educated, and great to be with. And that, I think, is June's legacy.
I just twigged the memory for me of the day of your mother, Aunt Lova, saying that June is so anxious about those kids, she follows them around with a sweater in case the wind changes. Our next speaker is Avery Smith Fleming. My mom was very lucky to be a part of a gang of superb girls who were growing up in Glenora. And Avery was one of them, and she's going to come to us also from Toronto, but by video.
From our early years, June and I had a close friendship. We grew up across the street from each other. Annalise has asked me to talk about those early years and our lifelong friendship. I remember the day that I first saw June. A family was moving in across the street from our house. I was so excited. They had a girl my age. I would have a girlfriend right across the street. And that is how our lifelong friendship began. It remained strong throughout our lives. June and I always realized how very fortunate we had been. Our friends were a group of really special girls. They were smart, full of ideas, ready to participate in all sorts of activities. Most importantly, they were lots of fun, and we did have lots of fun. June and I often reminisced about the freedom we had to pursue the adventures and activities that we all took part in. In the summer, we would take off in the morning with a picnic lunch and our bikes. We lived on our bikes. We rode the trails in those deep ravines. We often ended up by the river. We would paddle in the North Saskatchewan. That river is very swift. We both remember one time when Anne Field Stewart got swept along. We pulled her out, took her to the little hut of a gentle, kindly hermit who lived in a ravine. He was rewriting the Bible. He gave her towels to dry off, made us tea, and sent us home. Over the years, we had deep conversations with this kindly English gentleman hermit. When some of the neighborhood boys were around, we would play Run, Sheep, Run. It takes at least 8 or 10 kids to make up 2 teams to play that game. It lasts all day. It ranges across the entire neighborhood for several blocks. The neighbors did not always take kindly to that noisy, full-day game across their properties. As we got a little older, we spent hours discussing very serious topics. I cannot tell you now what we talked about. I can't remember what background information we would have had. All I can remember was that they were very serious conversations. We were solving the problems of a world that was paying us no attention. It taught us a lot about ourselves in discussions. Summer nights were wonderful. We would play baseball at the Circle with some of the neighborhood boys. Those of you who know that Glenora neighborhood will know the Circle. The only rule from our parents was, come home when the street lights go on. We did. Summer seemed to last forever. Every day we did something. We never stuck around wondering what to do next. We had plans. We had places to go. We had things to do. These are the places and activities that had so much influence on us. They were exciting. They taught us a lot. June and I often expressed amazement at the freedom that our parents gave us. We benefited a lot from that. We were thankful for it. So, farewell, June. We have been BFF, best friends forever. That's us.
So proud of her son, John Acorn, she could hardly stand it. I know, I could hardly stand it. And to give him his due, I don't think that even he could stand it. But she thought that Acorn the Nature Nut was hands down the best thing that had ever been on television in the history of television. Watch episodes of it and always marvel at what wondrous feats of creativity and intelligence each episode is. So I'm now very pleased to turn the floor over to my dear brother, John Acorn.
if I would play a few tunes, and I'm gonna do that. But I do wanna say a few words first, and I don't have any notes, so I'm gonna forget what I'm supposed to say, which is good, because I won't go overtime. But I'm very happy to see all of you here, friends and family, and I haven't had a chance to say hello to everyone, but I really appreciate every single one of you being here to remember our mom today. What do I want you to know about my mom? I want you to know that I had a very happy childhood, and I'm very thankful to Mom and to Dad for that. There was a sense of stability, there was a sense of optimism. It was I think the right way to grow up. So she was good. She was a good mom. She was a source of wisdom. She was certainly a source of advice. And she was very supportive of my friends as well. Sometimes merely tolerant, but you know, that's support as well. And is that in tune? Close enough. One of the things that Mom liked to do, she really liked to give things to people, and she liked to nudge people in the direction she thought they should be going. And this guitar is a good example of that. It's not my favorite guitar, but this is a guitar that Mom bought for Dad in 1965. And this guitar really changed our whole family, because Dad didn't play it. He said, no, I play the saxophone, but he hadn't played the saxophone for many, many, many years before that, and this guitar reminded him that maybe he should get a saxophone. And so he started playing music again, and that became a huge part of his life. And this guitar, it wasn't my guitar, but I had this other super crappy guitar. But I would occasionally try to play this one, which was hard when you're a little person because it has a wide neck. It's a nylon string guitar. Anyway, you don't need to know about the technical details. The point is, this guitar helped start me playing music, and it helped Dad get back into playing music. And in the last while, we would generally go over to see Mom at least once a week and have dinner on Sundays. I would call her every day, of course, and so would Annalise. But the thing that she really liked doing was singing songs. She said, "Play the guitar, John." So I kept this guitar over at Mom's house, and we would have our little sing-alongs. And she wasn't really, she didn't know how a sing-along works. She wasn't singing along, she was leading, and I was desperately trying to follow her lead. Anyway, here's a couple of tunes that she always liked to sing every week on Sundays. Hopefully the guitar doesn't slip out of my grip here. I should have brought a strap. Well, she liked the old tunes. 5'2", eyes of blue, chicoo. Nobody's singing. Come on, sing along. Has anybody seen my gal? Oh, well, turn down, oh, turn up, no, turn down, oh. It's a flapper, yes, sir. One.
See why she had to lead?
Has anybody seen my gal? If you should run into 5'2", covered with furs, diamond rings, all those things you bet your life. It isn't her, well, could she love, could she woo, could she do? Has anybody seen my gal? You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when the skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. The other night, dear, while I lay sleeping, I dreamt I held you in my arms. thing that I noticed though about Mom and music is that she didn't really care what the lyrics meant. She would sing anything with equal enthusiasm. And a lot of people have pointed out that You Are My Sunshine is not really a happy song. You know, it's really a song of loss. The one that really puzzled me though, she would always want to sing Folsom Prison Blues. Johnny Cash, which is well outside her realm of experience. Uncle Day, that was, I really like your interpretation of the walking through the forest. That was actually, alternative lyrics to that song was walking through the forest. I'm walking through the forest, don't know what to do. I'm walking through the forest, I'm crazy over you. Well, I'm walking through the forest. You get the idea, walking through the forest. And then Mom, she would very enthusiastically always belt out the line. The biggest line for her was, I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. We're always, you know, I look at it like, Mom. Anyway, she really liked to sing, and thank you for singing along with me, and thank you very much for helping to remember our dear mother. Thanks.
The gang of wonderful Glenora girls was Anne Field Stewart and also Sheila McNeil Abercrombie, and we're very happy to have Margaret and Mike Miller. Margaret is daughter of Anne Field, and Nora and Kelly and Bill Abercrombie, children of Sheila McNeil Abercrombie. When Anne Field Stewart was nearing the end of her life, she said to her daughters, remember June's birthday. It's easy to remember. It's August the 31st, and the end of August is the beginning of June. And boy, oh boy, did those Stewart kids ever remember my mom's birthday, especially Mike and Margaret. Every August the 31st, they created like some other breathtaking happening. And in the last few years, it was usually a dance. And so what I'd like to play for you now is the dance that Mike and Margaret did for my mom for her last birthday, her 94th birthday on August the 31st, 2024.
Happy birthday, Judy.
Happy birthday. So, Margaret was born between my my brother and me, so that makes it my turn now. From the time that I was a little kid, I was always so proud of my mother. I just thought that she was such a magical person. And part of what made her so magical was that she was just such a doer. I think she got that from her admiration for her grandfather, H.V. Shaw, who founded the Edmonton Cigar Factory, built the H.V. Shaw building on, I think it's 105th Street, was an entrepreneur. But June just did things. And so she wasn't a terrific fan of consultation, deliberation, consensus. She valued independent individual agency. So there are many stories that I could tell you about this, but a few examples spring to mind. There was a time that I was utterly exhausted in the Vancouver airport because my flight coming from Shanghai had been way delayed. I'd missed my flight to Edmonton. It was a November long weekend. I was standing there half catatonic at the Air Canada desk, and the Air Canada agent is going, yeah, nothing today, no, not looking good for tomorrow. Maybe we can get you out of here to Edmonton Wednesday, I don't know. And then I hear, passenger Annalise Acorn, please come to the WestJet counter. And I'm like, that was my name, I have to go. So I go to the WestJet counter, and the WestJet agent goes, oh, you must be Annalise, hi, here's your boarding pass. Go straight to gate 52 because your flight is boarding right away and your mom is going to be there at the airport to pick you up. I'm like, oh. So I get in the car, which I get there she is. I get in the car, I go, Ma, thank you, that was incredible. And she goes, all right, and now what you do is you take that boarding pass, you write a letter to Air Canada, you put it in an envelope, and in the letter you tell them that they're to send a check for $256 to me. And I did. And they did. Then there was the time in the early 90s when my mom and dad were looking at properties in Canmore. My mom thought that it was actually maybe even the late 80s, and my mom thought the market was going to take off. She found this beautiful place right on the Bow River at the corner of 838 3rd Street. And my dad was like, oh, I don't know, a lot of upkeep, we wouldn't get there very often, I don't know. He was and he dithered, and the weeks went by and the months went by, and then he said, no, you know, June, we're just not going to get enough use out of it. I don't think we should buy it. And my mom said, well, that's interesting that you feel that way, Glenn, because I already own that condo. Of course, he ended up being thrilled, and of course she later let him buy in, and it was a happy ending, but quite impressive. Then another time was we were having Christmas dinner. All our family was having Christmas dinner at Doug and Kathy Matheson's in their beautiful heritage home in Glenora. And as we later learned, what had happened was my mom had come in, and very shortly after she had arrived, she realized that the giant family heirloom diamond that she had put on her finger as she was leaving the house was no longer on her finger. And she was as cool as a cucumber all night long. She did not say anything about it whatsoever. And then we had a lovely dinner. She was very charming. Everybody had a wonderful time. And then I get home and I get a text from Kathy Matheson, and it's got a photo of my mom's diamond ring, and the caption says, uh-oh, looks like somebody's lost their best friend. So I call my mom up and I'm like, Mom, Kathy has your diamond. And she says, oh, good. And I said, well, did you know that it was gone? And she said, oh, yeah. And I said, well, why didn't you say anything? And she said, well, you know, when you have a diamond, you have to be aware of the possibility that you can lose it. And I thought that that beautiful house is as good a place as any for me to lose this diamond. Anyway, so, yeah, I saw David really on the way in, and I just wanted, this wasn't in my prepared remarks, but I just remember this is just recently. This was like in January or February, and I was visiting my mom, and she would usually, I would come down and I'd get myself a coffee, and then I'd make breakfast for her and come up with breakfast. And I came up, it was around 9 o'clock, because she often slept in bed, and I could hear through the door. I had her tray with her coffee and everything, and I could hear through the door that I thought, is she listening to some webinar? Like, what is she listening to? And so then I go into her room, because she's listening to something on her phone, all these people talking, like in a meeting, and I hear her say, I go in, and she says, these damn people have been droning on for an hour and nobody has mentioned my name once. And I realized that she's on a Zoom meeting with the Edmonton Heritage, I can't remember what the name of it is. What's the name of it, David? The committee that's saving the Royal Alberta Museum now. And David goes, it's okay, June, we're gonna get to you in a minute. Anyway, I was like, here's my 94-year-old mother. She did not tell me at all that she had a Zoom meeting. She logs onto it on her phone. She's lying in bed. And the only thing she didn't know how to do, and maybe she did it on purpose, I don't know, was hit the mute button. Anyway, one of the things that amazed me so much about my mom was the way that she kept coming into her own in more interesting and more powerful ways as she got older and older. In the last decade of her life, she found her voice as an activist and as a public figure. And in the last year of her life, she wanted to really follow the words of her favorite song, which was Moon River. She wanted to live as a drifter off to see the world. And so we did that. We traveled all over Alberta in late 2024, early 2025. And every time I said, where to next, Mom? She said, anywhere but home. And she became an acute observer of the landscape. It was often the case that she was most interested in the sky. But she just was transfixed with the beauty of the world, and there was such a lot of it to see, and she just wanted to keep on seeing it. And in her last days, she was like, see if we can get the reservations to Hawaii. I'm going to stay at the Royal Hawaiian for a week, and then let's go to the Big Island. She was totally on top of that. I wanted to say that my mother absolutely was so proud of her mother's mother, also Uncle David's mother's stiletto family crest, the motto of which is Dum Vivo Cantabo, while I live I sing. And she cherished that motto, and again, she did it. While she lived, she sang. When I really can't stand it that she's no longer here, I think about a time, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago when she went to the dentist. And she had a toothache, she went to the dentist, and the dentist said, well, June, you know, there is a cavity there. I could fill it. I really recommend against that. I'd really much rather put a crown on it because a filling is just a temporary solution. And she replied, that's right, and I'm just a temporary person, so fill it. That was her. So that brings me to our next speaker, and that is my mother's dear, very much cherished friends. I've been going through all her stuff, and she kept so many cards and letters and wonderful things from Pat and Tony Fields. And before I hand over the floor to them, I just have to tell one more story about June, which is that we owe, absolutely, unquestionably, we owe the last 16 years of June's life to Dr. Tony Fields, because June was diagnosed with cancer in 2009, and she was like, well, I'm 79, that was a pretty good run. I don't like hospitals, I'm not going to go for chemo. And Tony came over and he sat down with her in her living room, and at the time he was the director of the Cross Cancer Hospital. My mom always loved to recite Tony's credentials, so I'm going to tell you also now that he's currently the Chancellor of MacEwan University. And in the gentlest and most rational way, he persuaded her to have chemotherapy. And when he left, my mom said, well, I guess I have to go for chemotherapy now because I can't let Tony think that I don't like his hospital. So, Mom's dear friends, Pat and Tony Fields.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to begin our Remembering June talk with a brief background of our relationship. June and my mother were friends for years before Tony and I met her in Glen. June was a very artistic person. I am sure you are all familiar with her painting ability, but she was extremely versatile also. My mother and June were both creative women who first met when they had both signed up for a basket weaving course. This was no simple finish in a day and take home project. They had to locate and harvest a certain kind of willow, which they then had to treat so it would bend appropriately, as well as maneuvering these pretty tough branches into the frames they had made. They also learned how to create intricate woven patterns. I learned that a fair amount of bonding went on taking place while they were mastering these techniques. The next thing I heard was that Mom and June were going to silversmithing. They both learned how to create necklaces and rings from flat pieces of silver, sometimes inserting semi-precious stones as well. All the while she was pursuing these interests, she was busy selling real estate. We met her when we were moving back to Edmonton from Toronto and gave her the task of finding us a suitable and affordable house at a time when interest rates were about 18%. But trust June,